Before we get into it, I just want you to know that I've been a Final Fantasy fan since I was a teenager. I played Final Fantasy 1 before I was old enough to read, played bits of Final Fantasy 4 and 6 on my cousin's Super Nintendo, and finally got hooked on the series in my early teens after some friends at school were talking about how awesome Final Fantasy 7 was. I remember going to the store and looking to buy Final Fantasy 7, but to my surprise, the latest game in the series had just come out. So I bought Final Fantasy 8 instead, and I absolutely loved it. To this day, I still love the game with all its flaws and cringe. After playing Final Fantasy VIII, I got Final Fantasy Origins, Final Fantasy Chronicles, Final Fantasy Anthology, and Final Fantasy Tactics. I was hooked. Final Fantasy IX came out the next year and blew my mind once again with all its references to the previous games, along with its own great story, characters, and charm. Final Fantasy X was where things took a bit of a drastic turn. Sure, Final Fantasy IV added the ATB, and Final Fantasy VI added limit breaks, but despite the combat going back to pure turn-based in Final Fantasy X, 10 also made some drastic changes to the progression and the way you traverse the game. No longer were you able to explore a massive world map. With more focus on the story than ever before and greater graphical capabilities, they made the game a lot more linear, streamlined, and narrow. I hate when people complain when a JRPG is too linear, because linearity of the story is a big reason why I prefer most JRPGs over most Western RPGs. I get sidetracked easily, and if you leave things too open, I'm more likely to wander around and do side quests than ever experience any of the story, like, at all. When Fallout 3 came out, I remember renting it and putting 30 hours into the game. My buddy Mike, also known as DG Online, is a huge Western RPG guy, and when he heard I had put 30 hours into Fallout 3, he began talking to me about how cool the story was, and some twist about your character's dad or something. Unbeknownst to him, I had spent the entire 30 hours wandering around the wasteland, finding loot, and doing random side quests or just exploring. I freed some slaves that worshipped an Abraham Lincoln statue, I accidentally broke some dude's legs with a sledgehammer while trying to give him some bottle caps he politely asked for, and I found a lot of homes with skeletons in them. Story-wise, I never got any further than Megaton City, the first town in the game. So being linear isn't the same as what people refer to as a hallway simulator. Final Fantasy X was definitely a bit of a hallway sim, with there being maybe a few areas where you can go down another narrow passageway to reach some treasure, but overall the experience is a straight line towards the next story element down a narrow path. Final Fantasy X made up for this with a great story and the best combat the series has to offer.
Not to mention Blitzball! Endless hours of precious, beautiful Blitzball!
Go now if you want it! Blitzball awaits you! Go! You give up on it! The Blitzball awaits you!
God, I love Blitzball.
A lot of people will tell you that Final Fantasy XVI being a hack and slash style action RPG isn't that big of a deal or as big of a jump because every Final Fantasy game changes up the formula. But that's not entirely true. From Final Fantasy 1 all the way to Final Fantasy X, the combat has been turn-based to some degree. Heck, even Final Fantasy 11 to 13 are turn-based in a way. Things didn't really deviate from that until Final Fantasy 14, where it became a full-blown MMO with hotkeys and cooldown combat. Then things change even further with Final Fantasy 15 becoming a fishing game. Making something a more open-world experience doesn't necessarily make it a better game. Making a game change with the trends doesn't either. Look how long Final Fantasy Fortnite lasted. I don't hate what Final Fantasy 16 may be, I hate what it may do to the franchise I love. Taking a turn-based JRPG series that fans have loved for decades and turning it into another open-world action RPG can feel like a betrayal to people like myself who are fans of turn-based JRPGs and don't enjoy hack-and-slash games. I don't doubt that Final Fantasy 16 will be a good, well-made game with an incredible story. I just know that the game isn't for me, and that's probably the biggest disappointment of all. I can't force myself to like hack-and-slash games. Trust me, I've tried. Castlevania Curse of Darkness was probably the hack-and-slash game I've enjoyed the most, and I pretty much just overleveled the shit out of my Pokemon-like familiars who basically had to beat the game for me.
Come on, baby! Come on, Zapdos! Come on, Zapdos! Yes!
I don't enjoy this style of combat and gameplay, just like some people don't enjoy turn-based and some absolute heathens don't enjoy Blitzball. Part of me hopes this game doesn't do well despite being a lifelong fan of the franchise, not because I want Final Fantasy to fail, but because I fear that they'll continue to make mainline entries in this series that I'll have no interest in playing. Is that bad? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. I hope after Final Fantasy XVI, whether it's successful or not, we go back to turn-based combat again, but by the same team that's making 16. I have no doubts that these guys are going to make a fantastic game with a compelling story, and judging from this recent trial version gameplay, they weren't lying when they said this game was going to be dark. I mean, I can't see shit. Final Fanta can't see 16, am I right? All in all, I hope this video helped you understand where those of us who are disappointed by the change in direction for the series comes from. Having a favorite franchise make a mainline game that looks great but not for you is like when developers announce some awesome looking game, then only ever release it in Japan for the WonderSwan color or some shit. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and check out some of my top 10s or other off-the-cuff videos like this. Let me know in the comments what you think of Final Fantasy XVI and the current outlook of JRPGs. Turn-based isn't dead. Dragon Quest XI, Persona 5, and Yakuza 7 all prove that. I hope that the Final Fantasy devs can see this and make Final Fantasy XVII go back to its turn-based roots.
Dude, come on, you can just pause the game after every attack. That basically makes it turn-based.
Well shit, game of the year, baby. I'm in.